Today on Locked On Red Wings, Brock Boeser is a top winger available on the market, but does that mean he's a good fit for Detroit? We're not sure.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. And today, guys, we got another free agent profile for you, talking about Brock Boeser, most recently of the Vancouver Canucks, who looks to be headed towards free agency. So we're going to talk all things Boeser, good and bad, on this episode. And I got to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Scotty, Brock Boeser is a 28-year-old right winger that is poised to hit free agency. He played with the Vancouver Canucks of note, right? He had a great season the year the Vancouver Canucks had a great season. 40 goals, 33 assists, 73 points. That was a career high. But this last year, as Vancouver seemed to be snake-bitten, so did Boeser himself. 25 goals, 25 assists for just 50 points. When you're looking at a guy like Brock Boeser, is this a guy you're looking for to throw some money at to bring to the Red Wings?
Well, this is going to sound familiar. For the right price. I think that's kind of like the kind of overlying, probably applicable to theme throughout these conversations. I mean, this is a guy that at his best can give you a 40-goal season. Like, you tell me we could have two guys whose ceiling is around 40 goals on the wing. Like, that would be beautiful. That sounds like a dream. That you know what I mean? That's something that when this rebuild was kind of in full effect, that you wanted the Red Wings to turn into. And I don't think that we expected it to be with Boeser and DeBrincat, and maybe it was, some home Philip Zadino, but I think that I think that that is, that was what people hoped that the Wings would turn into. Now, there's a lot more nuance to the conversation than just simply he's scored 40 goals before, he's probably going to be available. Does this make sense? You mentioned this past year, he went 25-25 for exactly 50 points in 75 games. A pretty comfortable step back, over 20 points fewer from his All-Star season, obviously the year before last, where he had 40 and 33. So obviously a big difference. But again, I mean, as you mentioned, Vancouver had a phenomenal season. What was that? 110 points, 109. They were one of the best teams in the NHL that year. This past year, it's not like they were slouches. They obviously still had a solid year and whatnot, but he certainly took a step back with the team. And I think it kind of comes down to, how do you, view his production in terms of sustainability?
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Dom Luszczyszyn of The Athletic, Scotty, because I think he said it best in his article, I think on the 6th, where he said, you're paying a very good player to be a very great player. And that gives me pause, because Brock Boeser is a very good player. He is a fantastic top 6 option for the Detroit Red Wings, like you said, at the right price. This is a guy I would be very kind of similar to the Sam Bennett conversation, right? This is a guy I would be very nervous to throw the evolving hockey projection of 7 years, $8.2 million per season at. This is a guy who, across his career, has only hit the 70-point threshold, 40-goal threshold one time. Yeah. And that was the season where the Vancouver Canucks PDO was insane. Right. Like, the entire team was just playing unreal. This last year, He was incredibly snake-bitten. I'm trying to look up what his exact shooting percentage was. And he's better than he played this year, but he's not as good, I don't think, as he was the year prior. I think he lies somewhere in the middle. And if you look at his point totals,
it was 17% this year and almost 20% the year before.
A 17% shooting percentage is actually really good.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well,
that's actually really good.
He took 60 fewer shots.
No, yeah. So his shooting ability's never been in question. And Vancouver as a whole struggled. So you can contribute some of that to that as well. It's just, this is a guy who you're going to sign a lot of money to play primarily in the offensive zone. And again, alluding to the article Don Luszczyszyn wrote in The Athletic, this is a guy who primarily thrives in the offensive zone, and the underlying metrics agree with that. When you look at his evolving hockey player card, right, he has a 70 percentile offense and a 16 percentile defense for overall 53 percentile forward. That's doesn't jump off the page like that. And his expected goals above replacement this last year far exceeded his actual goals above replacement. I'll share it with the screen really quickly here for the people. Let me show here if I can. There we go. You can see it here, like the expected goals above replacement, if you're watching on YouTube, far exceeds what the result was. And that indicates he should have had a better season than he actually did. And that's fine. Like, you can sign Brock Boeser knowing that he's a better player than he was. But I think signing Brock Boeser, expecting him to be a 40-goal scorer, is also a little bit not fantasy. Like, he can do it. He has done it.
I mean, he literally did it. Right. But I agree with you. Yeah.
It's like what Dom said. You're paying a really good player to be a really great player. And he may have only touched 71 points once in his career, or 73 points once in his career, and 40 goals once in his career. But he has, well, his point totals outside of that have been between like 45 and 55. Taking into account the games played, I think, is a huge point too, Scotty. You look at go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
The games played is fair. I think it's interesting. If you play the game, find the outlier. The outlier is the 40-goal, 73-point season. The rest of his career, points-wise, is all between 45 and 55 points.
Right.
Literally every single season is 55, 56, 45, 49, 46, 55, 50. Those are his point productions by season, outside of obviously the 73-point season. And like we said at the beginning, he's only 28. That's not to say that he won't have good seasons down the road or whatever, but I think your point is a good one, where you are kind of banking on the outlier to be the new norm when he's, I think, kind of proven what his norm is.
Yeah, and I think that going back to like the points per game argument, like, yes, his norm is between 45 and 55 points. But, like, for example, 2020 and 2021, the two COVID years, he had 45 points in 57 games. He had 49 points in 56 games. So I would almost push back a little bit and say his norm is probably actually, across a full 82-game season, more in this 55 to 65-point range. But he's never once played a full 82 games season in his career, which is actually a red flag in itself as well, never having played an 82-game season.
He had an 81-game season, but yes, yeah.
But and
his
of course,
last 4 years are 71, 74, 81, 75.
And like
that's pretty close, and the point totals are 46, 55, 73, and 50.
Yeah, but then you look at the two COVID years, 56, he had 49 points in 56, 45 points in 57. Right. The year before that, 56 and 69. Like, there's clearly more offense in him. I would argue that the norm is somewhere between this year and the year before that. Like, this year was a anomaly down year, and the year before that, I agree, was an anomaly up year. I think that there is more offense in him than what we have seen this last year, but I also don't think it is going to be normally as high as it was the year before that. I think he's probably about a 55 to 65-point player, but, in an offseason where we're begging Steve Yzerman to take a swing, like, is that big enough of a swing for the Red Wings? Is it a justifiable swing for the Red Wings? And I think that's something we should expand upon more when we come back, especially when you talk about, how he plays his game and what position primarily he plays and the contract you're going to have to give him. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Got to talk to you guys today about Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? That's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored job posts put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. I've been in that spot where you need the right hire like yesterday. The pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed's sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Segment 2, Locked On. Just sucked all the momentum away. I'm firing you. You're gone. Out of here.
You're
done. You're fired.
Okay, yeah.
Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, I think when talking about Brock Boeser, right? And like we kind of did a little bit of a reverse. I think we focused on a lot of the things about him that give us pause. That's one of our new favorite phrases. He gives us pause with Brock Boeser, just regarding the fact that, he's going to get a lot of money for a guy who hasn't consistently produced at the level that he's probably going to get paid in the free agency. But there are other things about his game that we do like, and I kind of touched on it. Like, obviously, he is an impact scorer. He is, in his down year, he had a 17% shooting percentage. He scored 25 goals in his down year still. Like, let's not, get it twisted. This is still a guy who you would sign for your top 6. He would make your top 6 better. He'd play in your top 6. He'd give you 25 goals. Like, that is probably around where it's going to be. He'll probably get more assists playing in a line with like Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. This is another power play guy. You don't necessarily need power play 1 help if Patrick Kane returns. Maybe if he doesn't, you could use more help. But if he doesn't, you can use him on the power play 2. And in the offensive zone, he makes things happen. We can agree on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even, going back to your point before the break, his 82 game average is 30 goals, 34 assists for 64 points. That is his 82 game average across his entire NHL career. He just, to your point, has literally never played 82 games in a season.
What was that point total? 82 game average?
64.
64. Okay, I just want to make sure we had the same number there. But yes.
Yeah.
Which is
34 for 64.
And that's a top 6 average.
That's fantastic.
That is, like Lucas Raymond, 2 years, his rookie season had 57 or no, that was his down year. I think he had 57. We were still celebrating that as top 6. Granted, different situations. I guess that's not necessarily a good comp. I'll call myself out on that one. But the point still being, that is top 6 production out of Brock Boeser in an 82 game average. But it feels almost as if we're pulling teeth to find reasons why he would be a good fit. When I look into him, I feel as if there are more red flags. Red flags isn't the right word, but more things that give me pause, Scotty. About Brock. There it is. There it is.
Giving Brian some pause, everybody.
It's just about the fact that he doesn't have a good defensive game, right? We harken back to he's a 16th percentile defensive player as a forward. He does not help much in the defensive zone, and that's something this team really needs to get better at, is playing defense. He levels about, I think it's somewhere in the 70s hits-wise. He was a top 10 forward in hits, but you look at his on-ice metrics with the Canucks this last year, and again, the whole team had a down year, but he led the team in a lot of these negative Corsi, negative Fenwick, negative expected relative statistics. He had a really bad year, and when you take in the poor defensive metrics and you take in the advanced analytics, you really think to yourself, is this a guy who again 60 points, right? Average 63 points across his career. Is this a guy I want to give a projected 7-year deal at $8.2 million? That's a lot of cap for a guy where year to year you're not sure what you're getting, especially when the availability comes into question.
Yeah, and it's. I think the availability is somewhat of a legitimate concern. Low game totals for a lot of his career, as you mentioned, and for a guy that is getting old, right? He's about to be in his late 20s, and then obviously he'll cross over into his 30s if you sign him to a long-term deal. I think that only raises kind of more red flags than anything. I think the biggest thing here to me is just the continued premise of what do you want the Red Wings to have? And I know that sounds super, super basic, but like, okay, are they going to go in on, you know what, we're going to outscore our problems similar to what they did 2 seasons ago and just go, let's add somebody offensively to solidify the top six. You're going to get beat defensively when him and like Kane and DeBrincat are on the ice and whatnot, but like just hope that Raymond, Larkin, and Casper can do enough to keep your head above water in that regard? Or are you going to be more defensive minded? And like, that's what they tried to do last year. And the first 3 months of the season were an epic failure. So like, I think this is, you have to pick a lane at some point. You have to pick a lane. You have to pick an identity. This team, I would argue, doesn't have one of those. There is nothing that when someone watches the Detroit Red Wings, they go, wow, at least they can hang their hat on X. That I don't think that exists right now, and that's way more big picture than just Boeser. But like, I feel like that is kind of the root of a lot of these questions. It's like, okay, well, if you want to just become the glass cannon team that can try and outscore all their problems, you don't have a very good goalie situation, you have a really weak blue line. You know what? The only way they're going to win consistently is if they score 6 goals a game. So let's just lean all into it. Or you go, okay, well, maybe we take the offseason and address the defensive forwards. And obviously Marner is kind of just like, he would help you in everything. But like, you know what I mean? Like you can make that decision, but you have to make a decision. You can know the days of this, like, oh, we're just going to sign, the middle 6 forwards that are kind of like put up 40 points and play solid, okay defense. That's not going to get you anything, man. So like, I'm not against bringing in Boeser whatsoever. I think he's an incredibly talented forward that would be a great point producer, especially when surrounded by the players he would inevitably be surrounded by. But I think that this, I kind of like something just like struck a nerve would be clearly. So like, I think this really just opens like the Pandora's box for like a much bigger conversation than just like, is Brock Boeser a good fit? Sure.
Yeah, no, I think every single point you made there is a salient one. I mean, we look at his expected goals for percentage relative. There's 2 players, maybe 3 on this team that had a worse relative expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5 amongst forwards than Brock Boeser. And that was Teddy Bluger, who played 82 games. He was the worst at negative 3.75. Then Daniel Sprong and Ty Mueller, who played 9 and 2 games, respectively. So they don't even count. So Brock Boeser had the second worst relative expected goals for percentage, 5-on-5 amongst forwards, next to Teddy Bluger. Like that, and you look, okay, you think about, 2024, when they're his career high year, right? He was still 13th amongst forwards in that season. He still wasn't great. Now, granted, there's a guy who had 4 games and a guy who had 5 games, so really, you bump him up to 11th amongst qualified skaters. But still, like he was still a negative relative in the year he scored 40 goals at 5-on-5. Those are real concerns. I think it's really fair to bring those things up when talking about Boeser, because you're talking about giving this guy a long-term deal. Then you factor in, too, Scotty, he's a right wing. And so you're going to have to make a decision. Are you going to play him on the right wing where he's more comfortable, or risk moving him to the left side where maybe he gets a little bit worse? Or do you push Raymond, who is your star winger, who's been playing on the right side for a few years, to the left side? Like, this isn't Mitch Marner. This isn't. Like, with Mitch Marner, everything we've said, granted, Mitch Marner is actually very good defensively and is a number 1 PKer on the Toronto Maple Leafs on top of it. But, like, with Mitch Marner, you're like, this is a guy that is worth just figuring it out. You sign him, and then you worry about those details later. Brock Boeser's not that case. If you bring in Brock Boeser, who is, again, a very good player, and I would be in favor of bringing in at the right price, but if you're going to bring in Brock Boeser, you got to make sure all the boxes check. And I'm not convinced every single box checks for $8.2 million. Like, that's the thing. Is like, and I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth. This is where I get frustrated, too, because I get a little bit trepid, right, about looking at this guy's track record, but also at the same time, I've been talking all offseason about, like, you got to take a swing. Like, at a certain point, you just got to take a swing. And if this is Yzerman's swing, he better hit it. I would be, like, willing to defend it in the moment because I can't talk out of both sides of my mouth. If you sign Boeser and you give him that 8.2 because you missed out on Marner, like, that's a pretty phenomenal, I'm not going to lie, that's a phenomenal plan B, is Brock Boeser. But you have to hit on him because you've whiffed on so many free agents that you can't whiffing on Boeser. And I mean by whiffing, I mean as in like you sign him and he doesn't pan out, not by whiffing and you don't getting him, not getting him. Like you have to make sure if you get him, he works out. And you can't guarantee that, but you know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't be upset with getting a guy like Boeser because he is on average 64-point guy. He's going to score you 30 goals if he stays healthy. But everything you said is so spot on where like there are a lot of concerns with this player and you're going to be paying him a lot of money. And it doesn't necessarily improve the areas you're weakest at. So it's just like if you get him, okay, that's great. He's a top 6 winger. You need one of those. But he better work out.
Right. You best be right.
Better be right.
Like that's literally all it comes down to, man. Like you can't, especially on a long-term deal. Oh my, like Tarasenko, that sucks, but like it's over after this year. Like
Tarasenko's a perfect example of a short-term version of that, right?
No,
like,
exactly. That's why I bring it up. Yeah, exactly.
Tarasenko got 2 years because he was a little older. But like he was a guy who you thought was going to come in and be able to play some form of top 6 role. Like we were there's a short from last summer that still gets commented on to this day where we're like, this is the signing that moves the needle for the Red Wings. Like finally, like they got the offensive punch.
Right. That was the belief because it was supposed to help the offense so much. This was, you swung and missed on Stammer and so many other guys last summer. And it's like, okay, don't worry. You got Vlad. And it's like, well, that didn't work whatsoever. And so I think that it's obviously Boeser's much younger. You have, and this would be a long-term deal. So that's a little bit of a different conversation in that regard. But like, it's a guy that is not going to contribute anything unless he is producing points. So he better produce points for that contract, because if he doesn't, then you're walking around with 6-year Vlad Tarasenko situation.
Again, Dom said it himself. He is a gamble, and he's a gamble that could pay off tremendously, or he's a gamble that could really hurt your team going forward. And the side of me that wants Yzerman to take a swing is saying maybe we got to take that gamble, and the other side of me is like maybe not that. Yeah, and it's just. I sound like a hypocrite, but I mean, these are just real thoughts. Like I go back and forth. Like that question on the sidebar, like, is he worth the price tag? Like that is a genuine question I'm asking to myself this very minute, every single second we talk about Brock Boeser.
Yeah.
Because I want Yzerman to take a swing. I'm just not sure if this is the right swing, but I said it with Marner, we're not really in a position to be too picky either. So I don't know. It's a tough one. Let us know in your comments. I mean, we got another segment to get to, so hey, we'll hit that up in segment 3. Stay tuned. There's nothing like playoff hockey. The energy, the rivalries, the nonstop action. With the Stanley Cup final heating up, there's no better time to see it live. And Game Time makes getting in the building fast and affordable. Game Time gives you last-minute ticket deals, zone deals for deep discounts, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ticket prices often drop the closer you get to puck drop, so you can score big without overpaying. You can have huge deals with zone deals. They pick the best seats at the lowest price, and the priority last-minute deals save up to 60% off buying last minute for concerts, sports, comedy, theater, and so much more. And you can see those seats before you buy with total confidence using the panoramic seat view. Get that ticket coverage guarantee from Game Time to make sure you get your money back. It covers cancellations, job loss, and even offers 24-hour returns. It's honestly a life hack that I've used personally when going to the Stadium Series to go see the Blue Jackets and steal a game from the Detroit Red Wings thanks to a missed call. I'm not salty. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And one last thing. I'm not mad. Don't tell people I was mad.
Let it be known that I was not mad.
Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Yeah, Scotty, you have anything left to add on the Brock Boeser conversation in regards to this, this guy?
I don't think so. I say I don't think so, and then I'm going to talk. I really, I really think that this is a opportunity for, especially with the salary cap to go up, for the Red Wings to start I don't want to say like a flurry of moves, like they signed Besser and then like all of a sudden they, signed 6 other people. I don't want to be too dramatic with it, but I think that this is a really solid move if you can accompany it with a plethora of other like solid moves. You know what I mean?
That's a great point.
But
Great point.
If this is your big home run, this is all we do this offseason, then I think that that's probably disappointing because you're just going to lose every game 6 to 12. So like I think that there are still so many holes on this team that Besser doesn't fill that you can add them. You just better do a lot more as well. Whereas if I don't know, just like again, as the team stands right now, or if they were to only sign him, you're still extremely weak defensively, in net, on the blue line, PK, etc. Like all your weaknesses stay your weaknesses, but it's obviously not a bad player to get either. So it's just kind of a fine line to walk.
I think that's a fantastic point too, because like think of it this way: if you don't get much smarter, but you sign Brock Boeser, like you're probably saving upwards of $6 million with that signing.
Yeah, right.
Yes, you're getting $6 million less in production.
A year, by the way.
A year.
Right.
But that does open the door to add on to that signing by giving you enough cap space to also pursue Gavrikov. If your offseason is Boeser and Gavrikov, then my tune changes dramatically. I say that's a huge win. Like, yes, you're probably paying Boeser a little bit too much, but it allowed you to get a top 4 defenseman in Gavrikov. Combined, that's a huge surplus in, projected wins. If it's just Boeser, then yes, I'm like, okay, why did we get this guy?
Right.
Or you could also just go out there and get just Gavrikov, which is also an idea. But you still fill that top 6 winger role in Boeser. So like that's a fair point. Like if you compound it with other signings, then it looks a lot better. But yeah, I mean, as far as Boeser goes, again, I think it's like a cautious yes. I would absolutely take a Boeser because he's better than our current option, but it really just depends on the price, and I'm really nervous to overpay a player like Boeser.
Yeah, same. I'm right there with you. I think fine ad, just better not be the only ad. That's all.
Great way to finish it, Scotty. Great job.
Thanks, Dad.
I got to pump your tires up a little bit every now and again. You should really go listen to Scotty. Speaking of pumping tires, go listen to Scotty's Locked On Tigers. He's got a really exciting baseball team right now.
Yeah, well, today is an off day episode, so good.
Just in general, not necessarily today.
Oh yeah, so don't listen today because it sucks. Go listen on a different day. Apparently, great. That's nice. No, there's actually a lot of.
What do I try? I'm trying to be nice to you.
There's actually, I really like off day episodes actually because like for us over here when we have off days, it's 3, even 4 times a week sometimes, and toward the end you're trying to figure out like, okay, like what else can we talk about going into this game. Whereas with Tigers, it's once every other week, maybe. Like, so I kind of get an opportunity to just word vomit all of the things that I haven't had time to talk about that have happened maybe off the field over the last like week or so. So, but yeah, really fun team, man. Best record in ball. Been a fun ride.
What's your off day topic today?
A lot. It's a grab bag. Like literally everything from some prospect in the rookie league. I say some prospect. He's the most expensive international free agent the Tigers have ever signed. Chris Rodriguez talked about him. He's off to a hot start, but then also talked, like early trade deadline, talked like early draft strategy, talked Skubal extension again, talked Parker Meadows' approach at the plate. Talked about what the roster looks like when Veerling like literally it's just a random any thought I've had since the last off day. That is what off day shows are. They're just completely...
I'm sure there's many of those thoughts too.
Correct. Yeah, they're it's just all over the place. So
go listen to that. And then stay tuned here for our next episode. We're going to have Will Scouch on. He's going to do a couple of draft profiles with us. Redeem Mertka, Scotty. We're going to talk about that with him. 6 foot, just measured just shy of 6 foot. Measured just shy of 6'6", if I can speak. And we're also going to cover, I think it's Brady Martin in that episode as well. So stay tuned for that as well. Do you have any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We do ball. We'll be back with an episode tomorrow. Same time, same place, your team, every day.
Every day.